Well, hello everyone. How are we today? What's everybody up to? Let's see who is joining us. We've got Faith and let's see, Girl, I got you. You guys, your names are just supportive today. I love it. Welcome into both of you. Welcome in everyone. Who else is joining us? Let's see, Melissa and Top Nail, Leah. How's everybody doing? Debbie, Nicole, Janica. Welcome in, everybody. Glad to see some familiar faces. I always say faces, familiar names. But thank you guys all for joining us today. Welcome. Happy Wednesday today. I think it's Wednesday today. Just getting my nails ready to go here. And we're going to be doing a fun St. Patty's design today. I know we're not quite into March yet, but I think we're getting there quick, and St. Patty's Day is just around the corner, so I feel like a lot of people are already starting to wear those designs. So we're gonna do just a fun and an easy design today. Nothing too wild and crazy, but it's still gonna be a lot of fun, and we're gonna add some bling onto this nail too. So welcome in, everybody. All right, let's see. What else do we got in the chat? Anything? You guys, if you're new to our channel, first of all, make sure you hit that subscribe button and join our community here. But also, if you're new, feel free to post any questions you may have in the chat. I do try to answer some of the questions in there, but sometimes things get moving a little bit quicker than I'm able to read. And especially while I'm teaching, I don't always catch everything. But we have a great team of moderators here to also help answer your questions. So we are here for you guys. We're here for education and support for you. So I'm glad that you guys are all here. But all I was doing was just kind of getting my nails ready to go onto my trainer hand. And I like to just cut off that little bit of cuticle that's on the little practice tips here. I feel like it's a little bit more of a, I don't want to say a realistic look or a realistic feel, but you can see that now I have that kind of that cuticle area all ready to go here. So it does feel a little bit more like a real client, or at least for a practice. So today we're just going to be working on one nail. So I am going to trim this nail now, trim this nail down shorter. And this is something that I do with my clients as well. So when I'm working on either a full set of acrylics, hard gels, extensions like those, or even what we're going to be doing today is a full cover extension. And so I still like to trim down that natural nail. So that natural, kind of that longer free edge, this part right down here, that doesn't interfere with our tip application. So I do like to shorten that up a little bit and just give it a little bit of a shaping. You don't have to make that shape perfect. It's just going to still be covered up by the tip, but just to kind of smooth it out so that we don't have all those rough edges. Now, today what we're going to be working with, I'm going to show you all of the things that we're going to be using today. And first things first, we're going to be using our full cover Coffin nail tips. And these are a really super fun length and shape. So if we come in a little closer here, you can see they are a full cover. So these are going to fit on the whole entire nail. And then we're going to leave that out there for our extension. But they are a coffin shape. So they are that more tapered, a little bit more tapered towards the end of that nail. So that's what we're going to be using today. So kind of changing up our shape a little bit today. And then let me show you all of the different colors that I'm going to be using as well. And so let me grab those. We're also going to be using our tip and jewel adhesive. The tip and jewel adhesive is what I'm actually going to be using to adhere our full cover tips. This is a really thick adhesive gel. So you can kind of see in there, it is very thick. It doesn't really self-level a whole lot. So we've got really good control over this. And this is, again, what I'm going to use to adhere those tips on. I'm not going to be using a traditional air dry glue today. I do like the tip and jewel adhesive. It's kind of my new favorite thing these days. So I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that as we get into the application. But I'm also going to be using some of our cream clays for our design today. And again, we're doing a St. Patty's kind of inspired design. So we've got some greens, some golds, and white. And we've got from our cream clay collection, we've got crocodile tears. And I'll show you guys these as we get to them. But just so you kind of have an idea of what we've got, peaked at 13. We've also got Highfalutin, and the gold is Metallico, and our white is Secret Menu. And then I've also got one other gel. This is from our Mission Control Gel Paint Kit. And I like the gold on this one a little bit. It's a little bit different than the gold in the cream clays, but we're going to be using both of those today just to kind of mix it up a little bit. And the gold is called Aura. So these are the colors that I'm going to be using. I'm also going to be using one other gel polish today. And the gel polish we're going to be using is called Toothless. No, we're not toothless today, but we got Toothless gel polish. So those are the colors that we're going to be using today. Now let's go ahead and get started on our nail. So I've gone through and just shortened up and shaped that nail. So if you missed that first part, that's all that we've done on our nail here. But I'm going to start by pushing back the cuticles. And when you're working on a real client, this is kind of the time where you would be going through your consultation. So as you're pushing back those cuticles, it really isn't going to take very long to do the cuticle work. But again, this is going to give you that time to talk to your client and figure out what it is that they're wanting to have done on their nails. So as we did our little consultation here, pushing back the cuticles, I talked to my client and she said that she wants to have our full cover coffin shaped nails today. So we're going to go through and we're going to size these out. Now, you guys notice I haven't done any more prep on this nail. All I did was push back that cuticle. I haven't removed the shine. I haven't cleansed it. I haven't put on our bonder yet. We're going to wait on that till a little bit later because I want to make sure that I'm sizing out my tips onto this clean nail and I'm not touching the nail and kind of getting oils and things on there after we've prepped. So we're going to wait till after we size out our tips to do our full prep. Okay, so just kind of a little trick there to make your life a little bit easier. Now we've got our whole box of tips here and I'm going to size them out, and I know that she's not going to be the largest size here, so I'm going to go a few kind of maybe, so we've got size 0, 1, 2, 3. I think I'm going to start with the size 3 because I feel like that's about where we're going to be at. Okay, so let me come in a little closer so you can see how I am sizing these out. So when I size out my full cover tips, there's a couple of things that I'm looking for. First of all, I want to make sure that the C curve of my tip, so the C curve, the curve this direction, so the C curve here fits the C curve of my client's nail. So I want to make sure that I hold that right up onto their nail, make sure that I'm not having to use a lot of pressure to push that down, but then also that it's not really hanging off the sides too much. Now this one feels really good. It feels like it's fitting that C curve, and if I kind of angle that finger down, you can see there isn't really any gap in between there, and I'm not putting a lot of pressure on that. But it is kind of hanging off the edges just a little bit. Now, when you are putting your tips on using the adhesive, the tip and jewel adhesive that we're going to be using, I did show you that this is a thicker product. So when you adhere your tips with the tip and jewel adhesive, you're going to need to leave just a little bit more space underneath this tip. So if we take a look, if I kind of imagine there's a little bit of a layer of that adhesive underneath, it's going to bring that tip up just a little bit. So it's not going to be flush right down here. And you guys, you kind of have to look really close as I'm doing this. But when we put that tip and jewel adhesive on, again, there's going to be a little bit of a layer of that underneath. So it's going to raise that tip up just a little bit. So I do have to keep that in mind. So when I'm sizing, I don't want it sized exactly right to that edge because when I put this on with the tip and jewel adhesive, it's going to come a little ways away from that sidewall. So this way, it's not going to fill in all the way. So again, when you're sizing, you do want to size it out so that it goes from sidewall to sidewall. But if you're using the tip and jewel adhesive, it can, as you're sizing, size it out so it's just a hair off the edge. So just a hair, not much. You don't want it hanging all the way down here, but just enough to where you're going to have that little bit of extra space when you have that tip and jewel adhesive on. Okay, I hope that makes sense because it is kind of an important thing to understand that that product underneath is a lot thicker than what, say, maybe just a traditional air dry glue is going to be. If you're putting these on with just a regular glue, just like something like this, then you could definitely size that right out to the edge. So just all the way to that edge. You don't need it kind of hanging off at all. Okay, so kind of keep that in mind depending on if you're using just a regular thin glue or if you're using the tip and jewel adhesive, you're going to size out those tips just a little bit differently. Now, we've got our size. I'm going to check one size smaller just to make sure. I always like to check a couple of different sizes because sometimes these tips can be a little bit deceiving and one might feel like it fits perfectly, but if you try another size, that one actually might fit better. So I always go a size bigger and a size smaller just to check and see. Now this one, if we look at this one does look like it's coming all the way to the sides right where I want it to, but I want you to notice something. If I tilt this nail down, and I don't put any pressure, hang on, let me get this the right angle for you guys to see. If I don't put any pressure on there, there is going to be a little bit of a gap in between there. And I want to make sure that this nail is going to sit as flush onto the natural nail as possible without having to press down. Now, I'm not having to press down a lot, but you'll notice that as if I press down and then I lift up, that tip does have a tendency to want to pop back up. And we don't want that happening because if we have that tip sized out too small and it pops back up while it's trying to cure, you may end up with an air pocket or a gap underneath there. So make sure that you are sizing this out so that you don't have to put a lot of pressure. I'm going to grab another size smaller just to really over exaggerate this. Actually, I'm going to go, let's go 2 sizes smaller because I really want you guys to understand that you don't want to be pressing that tip on. Now this is a size, let's see, that's a size 6. The tip that I think we're going to go with is a size 3. It's got the little numbers right down there. So the size 6 is a much smaller nail than what we're actually going to go with. So if you see, as I'm just holding that on there, it doesn't go all the way from side to side. If I really press that down on there, then it does. But do you see just that tiny little bit of a gap right down here? Just that little corner right down there, that's definitely showing me that this tip is too small. And I'm also putting a lot of pressure on there when I'm pressing that down. And that having that extra pressure that you're putting on there, again, is going to want to make that tip pop back up. So this one is definitely not going to fit this nail. And I did want to just go that really extreme, smaller size, just to make sure that you guys really understand how to size out your tips. So let's go back to that size 3 that we had. Again, I really like how this one is feeling because I can just basically set that onto the nail, not have to really put a lot of pressure to get that onto the nail. Now, it is hanging off a little bit more than I would like it to right up here in the corners. So what I'm going to do with that, let me set our tips off to the side. So you guys, today we're just going to do one nail with our design here. We're not finishing out the whole set, so I'm just sizing out the one nail today. But I want to kind of show you what you can do to really make those tips fit perfectly, is you can actually customize them. So I'm just going to come in with my 180 grit file buffer combo. So this has the file on one side and then the buffer on the other. And I love using this file with the tips because this way I can use that file to kind of come through, take down any extra of that, that tip around the edges. If I need to taper it in around that cuticle at all, I can kind of round that out or flatten it out. And then you can kind of see, let me come in a little bit closer so you can really see, there's a little bit of kind of that frayed edge around there. What I like to do with that is I'll just kind of press or kind of push that back up, and then I'll use the buffer side and just kind of hit that with the buffer really quick and easy, and that's going to take care of that little frayed edge. So that's why I really like to use the 180 file buffer combo, because I feel like it's much easier than, say, having to, grab my 150 file and file that, and then I have to go find my other 180 buffer and grab that. So having the 2-in-1 is just going to make your life much easier. So just a little hint for you guys, make things easier on you. So all I was doing was just kind of customizing this tip so that the tip is going to fit really nice and flush into the cuticle area. It's not going to overlap too much. And I think we are looking pretty good here. I think I may want to take just a tiny little bit more off the edges just to really make sure everything is going to sit flush down onto that nail. And when you're creating these full cover tips, it's really a good idea to clean up and kind of shape up that cuticle area, because it's not, every tip is not going to fit every nail perfectly. You're going to have some tips that may be a little bit more rounded or a little bit more squared at the cuticle area. So you want to do a little bit of customizing. So when we do put that tip on, it's going to fit right up into that cuticle area. Now, you guys, I always like to show this on my nails. Let me grab one other tip here. I like to show this on my nails because I actually have on my thumbnail, you can see my cuticle area is a lot more square. If I were to take one of these more rounded tips and try to put that back into my square cuticle, do you see how it kind of leaves a little bit of a gap in those corners, okay? So if I were to take the file, just kind of flatten that out a little bit more, just come right across the top area, flatten that out. Taper that in just a little bit, push up that little frayed edge, remove that little frayed edge. Now if I size this into my cuticle area, now you can see that that's going to fit a lot better up into those corners all the way in there. And you're not going to have so much of a gap or overhang from those sides. So it really is important to make sure that you are customizing and shaping those tips and the well of the tip to fit your client's exact finger. All right, you guys, if you're new to our channel, make sure if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, join our community, get this great free education, and let's carry on with our nail. So this is the nail that I've customized for our client here. So we're going to just set that right there so I don't lose that. We're going to now go back to our prep. So again, we've already pushed back the cuticles, but now what we want to do is we want to remove the shine from that natural nail. We want to give that nail just a little bit of texture so that our tip and jewel adhesive is going to adhere really well. So I'm going to put my mandrel and sanding band into my e-file. And let me change out that bit. So I'm always going to use a brand new sanding band, whether it's on my client, whether it's on my trainer hand, whether it's on myself. Always grab a brand new bit so that you've got that really good grit to it. Sometimes, especially with the sanding bands, after you've used them for a while, they do wear down and they're not sanitizable and disinfectable. So always just grab a new one. Now, you guys, if you noticed, normally I'm using my desktop e-file with this handpiece. Guys, today I'm showing you our, I'm going to show you our other e-file. This is our portable cordless e-file. And let me bring this into camera here. So this one is actually on a really good deal on our sale right now. And you guys, if you haven't hit our website for our sale right now, make sure you jump over there to get some great deals. Everything is at least 30% off. But this bundle with the cordless rechargeable e-file, you get, let me show you what all you get in this bundle really quick, and then we'll get back to our prep. But you get 4 different gel polishes, and one of them that we're going to be using today is Toothless. You also get Dust Bunny, you get Slate, and you get Congratulations Song. So all 4 of these gel polishes and the electric file is, I believe it's $45. Moderators, make sure to correct me if I'm off on that, but I believe that's $45. So you guys, this is a huge deal. So don't pass this up. If you're looking for a great e-file, this is absolutely amazing. It works just as well as our desktop version. So if you're looking for something and you're on a budget, you guys, this is the way to go. So let me show you how we're going to work with this. So I've got the handpiece in my hand. I've got our mandrel on there. To turn our power on, and it already is charged up. So normally if you need to, you can plug it in to the top and recharge the battery, but I have it all charged up at this point. I'm going to hold, so the center button right in here, I'm just going to hold that down until my power comes on. You'll see those blue lights light up. Now on camera, it looks like they're flashing, but in real life, they don't actually flash. There's just something about how camera picks that up. But the blue lights are actually going to be your battery and your power indicator. So as your battery wears down, the lights are going to turn off. So right now, all of my lights are lit up. So I've got a full charge on my battery here. But as you use it, you'll notice that the lights turn out, and then you'll know when it's time to recharge. Okay. Now, if we take a look on the side, you can see my e-file's not moving. That bit's not spinning in there. We're going to use that little dial on the side, and that's how we're going to adjust the spin or adjust the rotation. So the RPMs on here. So the more you turn that, the higher up your RPMs are going to go. Now this is something that for a newbie, if you're brand new to electric filing and you don't have the display telling you exactly how many RPMs, what I've done on mine, let me come in really close, you can kind of see it. I actually took a white chalk marker and I just put a little line right there so that I know that that's kind of the base of the little rotation wheel. So when I turn my speed up, if I turn that so that that little line down here is just about to the top part there, that's going to be my proper speed for prepping. So again, if you're new to this e-file, if you're new to electric filing in general, this is kind of a good way to indicate that. So you're not filing too fast or too slow. So that's just kind of my little trick that I've done. Again, just draw a little bit of a line right there with a chalk marker, and then it's going to be just before you get to the top there. Okay, you can draw a second line so you kind of have an idea where the rest of the RPMs are going to be. For doing your removal of bulk, you're going to go to that second line. Okay, that's about as fast as you're ever really going to use this. Now, I did draw a third line in there just so you can kind of see, you know, how many rotations you're turning that dial. But again, for your prep, you're going to go just almost one length of the wheel here. Okay, so that's going to be our prep speed, and that's about I would say about 5,000 RPMs. Okay, now we're going to come up around our cuticle area and just gently work in kind of a circular motion up around that cuticle, down the sidewall. And then we're going to come right through and just kind of feather that bit all the way through. Just very gently. I'm not really putting any pressure at all. I'm just basically making contact and coming across that nail. Now, you guys, I want you to see something that I'm not actually keeping that bit on the nail. I'm coming across the nail and picking it up, across the nail, picking it up. So that's how you get that feathering motion. If you just keep that bit on the nail and you kind of grind it back and forth, that's going to build up heat on the nail and it's going to cause some discomfort for your client. So make sure that you're just coming across in one direction, pick up, across, pick up, across, pick up. And the more you practice this, the faster you're going to be able to work to really cover that whole entire nail. All right, we are good there. So I'm going to turn my e-file off just by holding that center button down. Your blue lights are going to turn off. We'll set that off to the side here. And, oh, actually, one other thing that I wanted to do while I do have my e-file out is we're going to remove the shine from the well of this tip. Now, this is an important step when you are working with an adhesive gel to adhere your tips. You want to make sure that you remove that shine from the well because gel is not going to stick to a shiny surface. So if you leave that shiny surface, what's going to happen is you're going to put your adhesive on the tip there, you're going to glue that onto the nail, and it's going to tend to pop off. So you want to make sure that you're going through. We're going to turn our e-file back on. Still at that same prep speed, we're going to go through and just gently remove the shine from the well of that tip. So wherever this tip is going to come in contact with that natural nail, you want to make sure that you've completely removed the shine. So I'm going to take a look. I've taken a good amount of that out. It looks like I missed my edge over here, so I do want to make sure that I get all the way down to that edge so that I don't have any of that shine left in there. And then let's take a look and see where this sits on the nail. So I'm going to kind of measure that, place that where it's going to sit. You can see there's still a little bit of area right down here that I haven't removed the shine from. So I need to go back one more time and really just make sure that I get that whole well that's going to adhere to the nail, taking that shine off of there. All right, I think that's probably going to be good. Oops, there we are. So there, if we look, now I can see that that whole area is shine free, so everything is going to adhere really well. All right, let's turn our e-file off. At this point, we're going to come back in. I'm going to use my manicure brush, dust out the inside of that well, make sure that there's no more dust in there. And we'll set that off to the side, and I'm going to come back to my natural nail. We're going to dust that off, and we're going to cleanse this nail really well. So again, dusting that off, get as much of that dust out of there as possible. If you need to, come underneath the nail, get all of those little last pieces of dust off of that nail. And then we're going to come in with our swipe. Swipe is our cleanser. You can see it's the little blue liquid. We're going to pump a little bit of that onto the manicure brush. And I'm going to go through and I'm going to scrub the nail. And this is going to really help to get any of those last little teeny tiny dust particles off of the nail. This is also going to help to remove any germs or bacteria from the nail. So this way you don't end up with a bacterial infection, any of those little greenies that we always talk about. You want to make sure that you're really giving that nail a great cleansing. And that's what swipe is going to do. Now we do want to make sure that we wait. You can kind of see that half of that nail is looking dry, but then the other half down here, it still looks a little damp. So we're going to wait until that looks completely dry. And looks like just one last little spot over there. Okay, so now our nail does look completely dry. We want to make sure that we are waiting that full amount of time to let that nail completely dry before we put on our protein bond. If you were to put the protein bond on right away when the swipe is still wet, what really tends to happen is that swipe basically kind of null and voids the protein bond. So that's why we want to really make sure that the nail is completely dry before we put protein bond on. Now, if you are new to our channel, new to our products, you may be wondering, what is protein bond? And I will tell you, protein bond is a bonder and it works kind of like a double-sided tape. So wherever we put our protein bond, it's going to leave a sticky surface to grab onto whatever product we put on top. And today we're going to be adhering our tip with our adhesive, tip and jewel adhesive. So usually I like to do 2 coats of protein bond when I'm adhering the tips like this. So 2 coats. I start in the middle and work my way out to the sides and up to that cuticle area. So this way I'm not flooding any product onto that cuticle. Now I'm going to show you guys really quick. If you take a look at the bottle, you do see it says non-acid adhesion. That means that this is not a traditional primer. It is a bonder. It doesn't have any of the methacrylic acid that traditional primers have. But even though it doesn't have that acid to it, you still want to make sure that you're keeping that product off the skin. As with any product, any nail chemical, anything, you want to be making sure that you are very careful about how you apply, because any chemicals that do get on the skin, over time you can start to have reactions to them. So you want to be very careful. And that's why we start with our protein bond from the center, work out to the sides, and then back to the cuticle so that we don't flood it onto the nail. All right, we have our nail prepped, ready to go. We have our tip prepped and ready to go. Let's go ahead and grab our tip and jewel adhesive. Let me come back out so you can see what we got going on here. Now, a lot of times, you guys, I like to show you this because there are different ways of applying your adhesive. I do see a lot of people, and they basically will take their tip and they will go in and they will scoop out that little bit of adhesive onto their tip, and then they go in and apply it to the nail. Now, that is a great technique, and if it works for you, that's fantastic. Personally, what I like to do is I'm going to take this is our dual-ended brush and spatula. So if we take the covers off, on one end it's got the brush, on the other end it has the little spatula. What I like to do is I just like to use that spatula because I feel like I get a better and more of a clean application than by just scooping it out. Is scooping it out wrong? Absolutely not. It works great. But personally, I like to use that spatula to really make sure that I get the product where I need it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to apply the tip and jewel adhesive just down the center of the well of the tip. So I kind of press that down, slide that back, and then I'm going to use the kind of the edge of my my spatula to kind of move that out towards the edge of that tip. Now I'm not bringing it all the way to the edge, because what's going to happen is when we put this tip onto the nail, it is going to squeeze out some of that adhesive, and it's going to kind of squeeze it out to the sides. So if I brought that adhesive all the way to the edges here, there is a chance that it's going to squeeze out the sides and come in contact with my client's skin. And I don't want that. I want to keep my client nice and safe. So I leave just a little space right at those edges, and then you'll see that that adhesive is just going to start to kind of spread all the way to the edge. Okay. All right, let me come in here. Actually, let me show you guys from the side. So when we're applying the tip, I don't just set it flat down onto the nail. I start at a slight angle down towards the cuticle and we'll set it down there. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to set it down about, let me come in a little closer so you can see. I'm going to set it down right about here, press it down, and then slide it back towards that cuticle. That way, again, I'm not putting pressure right at the cuticle area because sometimes, let me show you one other thing. Sometimes what can happen, let me grab my other little practice tip, is when you press that down, do you see how that little bit of product kind of oozes out the back? We're going to avoid that by coming in, let me scooch that off there. We're going to come in at that slight downward angle, set it down, and just make contact. Slide that back a little bit. So that way it's going to connect, but it's not going to allow that adhesive to squeeze out the back. And then we're just going to rock that down onto the nail. Okay, now that you guys, this was my little practice one. So let me set this one off to the side and we'll go ahead and do our actual application. I'm just going to clean that off my nail really quick. All right, so again, we've got our tip and jewel adhesive in the well. We're going to start at that slight downward angle, just a hair away from the cuticle area. Set it down, slide it back, and then we're going to just rock that nail down. Now you're going to be able to see that, that gel kind of pressing out that little air pocket at the end. We're going to press that all the way to the end of the nail. I'm going to put a little bit more pressure back at that cuticle area just to make sure that it is adhered really well. And then, let me get that on there. I'm going to get this into, and you guys, I'm going to show you this here in just a second. Show you what I'm doing. All right, so what I've got here, let me back my camera out. This is our touch cure light. So what this is going to do is this is going to help to cure that product into place and just kind of set it there. And let me show you, can I get a better view here? So this is actually, I'll just take it off of the stand. It has a little stand that you can put it in, but this is actually our touch cure light. Here's the little stand. We'll set that off to the side. But you can use this to kind of set that gel into place. Now this is not going to be your full cure of the nail. You are going to put this back into the full UV LED light, but I do like to use this touch cure light to just kind of set this into place, especially if I'm working on a full set, because I could set this one into place. I could apply my next one. Oops. I could apply my next nail, set that into place for, again, just maybe 20 or 30 seconds or so. Then I can apply my next one, set that into place, apply my next one, set that into place. Then after I have all of those set into place, then I can go into my full UV LED light and cure those all together for a full 60-second cure. Okay, so you have to make sure that as you're doing one at a time, you're going to just kind of freeze those into place so that they don't move or slide around, and then make sure to get that into the light for the full 60-second cure. Now, I do want to show you something here really quick. So depending on how you like to work, if you like to use the stand, you can definitely use the stand. Just slide that light right up in there. Or you can just use it as a handheld. If you're working on yourself, it works great to have this little stand here so that you can just kind of turn the light off and on. It is a touch cure, so what I mean by that is when you touch the end, it turns it off or turns it on. It does have the main power button right up top here to kind of do the first power on, but then again, you can tap the end to turn it off and on. Now, when you're working on a nail, you guys, on camera here, I usually show it up a little bit closer here because just so you guys can see on camera. But as you're working, I would recommend staying, I would say, at least about 6 inches away from that light. So this way, what's going to happen is it's actually going to cure a little bit more of that whole nail. You can kind of see it's covering more of that nail rather than right up here. Sometimes you may miss an area back here. But then also, if you're a little bit farther away, you're going to have less tendency to have a heat spike. And what I mean by that is when you're working with any kind of a gel, if you cure that gel really fast, so say I had my hand right up here, it's going to cure that gel really fast. And with that chemical reaction, it's going to have a little bit of heat. Now, the faster you cure that, or the more instantaneously you cure the gel, the more heat you're going to feel. By having your hand a little farther away rather than right up top here, you're not going to have as fast of a cure. so you're not going to experience as much of that heat spike as you could if you were that close to the light. So again, make sure that you are working a little ways away from that light and you're not putting it right under there up here. All right, we've got our nail cured out for that full 60 seconds. You guys, how easy was that? I mean, there's no sculpting, there's no building anything out. We've got our nail on. We're ready to go. We're ready to do some fun stuff. So I'm just going to close up some things here. Now I am going to take a look at this nail and make sure, did I have anything that maybe is still hanging off the edges? And I feel like on this side, my tip may have hung off the edge just a tiny little bit. It's okay. I don't have any product on the skin, so that's a good sign. We want to make sure to keep product off the skin. But I do have a little bit of that tip kind of hanging off the edges. So I'm just going to take either my 150 grit file, or you can also go back to, I can't find, oh, there it is. You can also go back to that 180 file buffer combo and just come underneath there and kind of straighten out your sidewalls, straighten out that lower arch if you need to, kind of clean that up a little bit. And anything that's hanging off that edge, you can just kind of taper that in. And then I also like to go through, and if I come in really close here, you guys will be able to see right on the end, there's usually a little kind of a little tag right on the end there. Always come through and clean that up. That's just from when the tips are basically manufactured in the mold and they remove them, that little kind of tag kind of just kind of sticks around. So make sure that you smooth that out so that you don't have that hanging off the edge. Now you could go through, if you wanted to, you could round out these corners a little bit. If you want to kind of change up the shape a little bit, that's okay too. But we're going to stick with that more coffin shape today. Okay. Now, before we actually do our design, remember when we were talking about removing the shine from the well of the tip before we adhere that with gel? We need to do the same thing with the surface of our nail, because if we have that shiny surface, our gel polish is not going to adhere to that either. So we're going to go back to our E-File. We're going to turn that on. Oops, let me come back out so you can see what I'm doing. So again, we'll turn our E-File on. Maybe, hang on one second. There we go. Okay, just had to hold it in there longer. And all we're going to do is we're going to come up around the cuticle area. So just like we were doing our prep, coming up around that cuticle area. And this is a great time, if you have maybe a little bit of a ledge of that tip kind of in that back area, you can use the E-File to just gently kind of smooth that out, file that down so it's a little bit more flush down to that natural nail. So again, if you have any little, maybe a little gap, maybe your tip kind of lifted up a little bit back at that cuticle, you can definitely file that down so it's a little bit more flush. And that's kind of what I'm doing on this edge right here. If I come in a little bit closer, you guys can kind of see there was just a little bit of that tip that kind of lifted up just a little bit. So I'm just going through and filing that down so that it's nice and flush down onto that natural nail. Now, again, if you needed to, you could just come back in with that 180 file buffer combo. If you feel like you needed to come in a little bit more around that edge there, you can definitely do that as well. So whatever you need to do to make sure that that tip is nice and flush down to that natural nail. So whether it's the hand file or the E-File, whichever works for you, but you go ahead and do that. Now, once we've got that area around the cuticle nice and flush, I'm going to come back in with my E-File here, and we're going to go through and remove the shine just like we did with our prep. Let me come back out so you can see. Okay, so just following all the way through that whole surface of the nail, making sure that there's no shiny spots at all, and this way our gel polish is going to adhere really well to this nail. And you guys, if you're new to our channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Join our community, have a lot of fun with us, but definitely hit that subscribe button and join us. All right, so got just a little bit of a frayed edge right down there. And I think for that, I'm just going to catch that with my hand file really quick. And let me turn my E-File off here. All right, so again, you guys kind of see there's that little hanging piece. I'm just going to come around the edge and we'll take care of that. Actually, you know what? To me, that actually looks like it might be a Well, it's not on the trainer hand, but if you need to nip any cuticles, now would be the time to do that nipping. I don't do any of my cuticle nipping prior to my tip application because you can see I do a little bit of filing around that cuticle. And a lot of times, if you do have maybe those little tiny cuticles, those will get kind of buffed off with your filing and buffing. So wait until the end to do your cuticle trimming, but we're at the point of this is where I would do my cuticle trimming. Okay. All right. So we've got our nail ready to go. We're going to go through. I'm going to dust off this nail really well. Again, getting all of that dust cleaned off of there. If you need, whoops, don't pull your client's fingers off. You guys, with the trainer hands, make sure that you do click those nails in 3 times. I'm not sure if you'll be able to hear this on camera, but if you listen close, 1, 2, 3, and there was actually a 4th one in there. But if you click that in the 3 times, your nail is going to stay in there really well. I think what had happened was I just kind of had started shifting that little, this part of the finger down, and that starts to kind of loosen the tip in there. So make sure that that kind of plasticky part is all the way in there, and then click that 1, 2, 3, and you'll be good to go. Now, at this point, again, we've dusted this off. If you absolutely need to cleanse, if you feel like maybe there's a little bit of dust still up around those cuticles, I would grab the ManiQ Cleanser rather than the swipe. Now, earlier we used our swipe to cleanse the nail. The swipe does have a little bit of acetone to it, and acetone will start to kind of smooth out that textured surface that we put in. So we want to make sure we're using something that does not have any acetone to it when we cleanse at this point. And the ManiQ Cleanser is perfect for this. It does not have any acetone to it. So we're going to take just a little bit on our brush here, and we can go through and again, just give that nail a really quick dusting, really cleanse that off, and anything underneath there if you need to clean out underneath. Okay. Now we are going to go into our gel polish application, and I'm going to be using, again, this is called Toothless, and this comes with the kit right now with the 4 different gel polishes and that e-file that we were using. All of these together are $45, you guys, and the sale ends tonight at 11:59 p.m. Pacific time. So if you didn't get a chance to get this bundle deal, make sure to jump over to the website, and we've got all of that information pinned here in the chat for you. But you guys, it is a huge deal, so don't miss out on that. But we are going to be using, like I said, we're going to be using Toothless. And anytime I do a gel polish application, I will do 1 more coat of my protein bond. This is going to give the nail a little bit better adhesion. So when we're applying our gel polish over this tip, it's going to have really great adhesion and a really great bond. So you're not going to have to worry about your gel polish chipping or peeling away from the tip. Now, on this one, I just do 1 coat of the protein bond. I still stay a little bit away from the cuticle area and then work back towards it. So again, I'm not flooding that product onto the skin. But again, just 1 coat of the protein bond. Now we're going to go into our gel polish application. And with our longer nails, I do want to make sure that I'm not wiping out all of that gel polish from my brush. I want to be able to leave a little bit more than I normally would. So if I were just working on a shorter nail like this, I would definitely, let me come in a little closer. I would probably wipe off the back side and maybe just kind of even give it a little tap on the front side. And that's going to be enough to polish a shorter nail. But when I'm working with a longer nail like this one, I'm just going to wipe out that from the back side. And then I've got a good amount on the front side of my brush. Now I do tend to like to start about halfway down that nail, just like we did with the protein bond, work out to the sides. So again, this way I'm not going to flood product right at that cuticle area. And then I'll come back towards the cuticle area. I'll press my brush down and just kind of give it a little wiggle, bringing that right up towards the cuticle, and then pull down those sides. Same thing on the other side, kind of press that down, wiggle it up into the cuticle area, and then pull that down the side. And then I just kind of feather through all the way through that nail to make sure that I'm getting nice even coverage. Now you guys, I know it doesn't look like it is perfect on this nail, and that's okay. Sometimes you're going to get a little bit of that, maybe, I don't want to call it streaky, but may not be or may not be perfectly even with the first coat, but you guys, I guarantee you with the second coat, it is going to give you really good full coverage. And somebody's in the chat says, so you don't need base coat. At this point, we do not need a base coat. Now, if you feel like you need maybe a little bit more durability to this nail, then you could add either, let me find it here. I would say to add either a coat or two of either the ManiQ base coat. That's going to give you a little bit more structure, a little bit more durability. Otherwise, you could also use any of the ManiQ fiber gel. That's going to also give you a really good extra layer. But you don't have to use an extra coat of the base. It's not 100% necessary. But we are going to do a second coat of our gel polish. So let's come in here. Same thing, we're going to pick up a good amount on our brush, start about halfway down the nail, brush that product all the way through that free edge, and then work your way back towards that cuticle area. Give that brush kind of a little press down, let it fan out, wiggle it up into the cuticle, and then down around those sides. And you guys, I'm going to show you one really quick little trick here that may make your life a little bit easier when you're polishing, especially up around that cuticle area. Just trying to make sure my color is nice and even here. If I were to grab my little mixing tile, I can put a little bit of that polish right onto my tile. And then I'm going to find this is my micro detailer brush. So you guys can see it's just a teeny tiny little brush there. I can take a little bit of that onto my micro detailer. And if I need to come a little bit closer into those cuticle areas, coming right around there to just touch everything up, I can definitely do that. So you guys, you want to make sure that you're getting as close to the cuticle and close to the sidewalls as you can, but still not touching. So just be very careful that you're not flooding the product into that cuticle area. And I think we're looking good on there. So let's get that back into the light. And these have been going into the light for 30 seconds. So that's just going to freeze the product into place. And then we will actually do a full cure at the end to make sure that everything has cured properly. Now, in the meantime, while that is curing, I'm going to grab some other colors here. And again, give you guys a chance to hit that subscribe button while I'm gathering my colors. Let's see. Somebody's asking, can we buy the mixing thing, the little mixing tile? You guys, I don't think we have these available anymore. Moderators, if you know for sure, please let me know in the chat there. But this was something that we did have. And you guys, we do a lot of kind of limited edition items. So you always have to check back to the website and check with our sales and see what we've got, so you don't miss out on any of the good stuff. But yeah, I do believe that this one has been discontinued. But you guys, something else that you can use, let me show you the other thing that I do use when I don't have this little tile here. You can just run to a hardware store and just get you guys, it's a cheap 99-cent ceramic tile, and they work really good for that too. So if you don't have our cute little one, just grab yourself a tile like that from a hardware store. Not a big deal. All right, so our nail is cured out. Let me get our colors going here. So again, what we've got peaked at 13. Let me come a little closer so you can see these. Peaked at 13 is a really fun bright green. And then we've also got highfalutin, which is our dark green. That's actually kind of almost a foresty green, like a pine tree green. That's kind of what it reminds me of. And then we've also got crocodile tears, which is our metallic. So that's going to add a little bit of shimmer to our design here. And then for our gold, we've got Metallico. And again, that's a gold metallic. And then for our white, we've got Secret Menu. And I like Secret Menu because it's our brighter white in the cream clays. And I want a really good kind of definition with my white. So I'm going to grab an art brush. And again, you guys, if you've got our Young Nails art brush collection, I'm going to use our smaller oval brush. And then I'm also going to use our ombre brush. So if you don't have these, I believe these are also a limited edition, but if you don't have these exact brushes, hopefully you've got something similar. So again, just a smaller oval brush. And those of you that got our our collections, let's see, our mystery boxes during Black Friday. I'm trying to find my other brush here. We did have a, oops, not that one. We did have another art brush. Let me, oh, there it is. So if you guys did have the mystery box, the Pro Acrylic number 4 is a great brush for this design as well. You can see mine's a little bit frayed out right now, but it's a similar brush, so similar style. So if you've got that one, you can use that one as well. Otherwise, if you have the just our gel sculptor brush, it's another similar brush that works great for this one. I just like the little bit smaller bristle on our art brush, but you can definitely use any of these brushes if you've got them. Okay. All right, so we've got our colors here. Now we're going to be creating a fun French. So stick with me on this. It's going to look a little bit weird, but it's going to be super easy. I promise you, if you're a beginner, if you're a newbie, if you are an experienced tech, anybody can do this. So I'm going to just start kind of blending my colors. So I'm going to take a little bit of each color and we'll just pick that up. And I'm just going to kind of do, let me come in a little closer. I don't want to be super heavy-handed, but I'm just going to kind of streak that color onto the nail. So just kind of streaking that on, and then I'm going to wipe out my brush, clean a little bit of that extra gel out of there, and then we'll go to our next color. So pick up a little bit of the darker color, and again, just kind of almost feathering it through. So not using a lot of pressure, just kind of feathering that through. And let's see, let's grab some of our metallic. Adding that in, and this is just going to kind of start to blend together a little bit. And I don't want to use a lot of brush strokes. I don't want to be going over and over this because I want a little bit more kind of separation of those colors, but I just want them to barely blend together. So just barely blend. And I think I'm going to grab, let's take a little bit of our metallic, of our gold, kind of feathering that in. Now, if you feel like maybe you have a little bit too much color, again, wipe out your brush. You could even just kind of pull through that and pull a little bit of that color off. I think I'm going to add just a little bit more of that green and then maybe a little bit more of that gold. Now, you guys, let me know in the chat. Does this look like something that you'd be able to do? Does this look like something that has a lot of technical skill to it? Does this look like something that you really have to practice? Let me know in the chat if you think you could do this design. Give me a little stars. Put some stars in the chat if you think you could do this design. Let me know. Somebody's asking, could you use a blooming gel for this? If you use a blooming gel for this, you're going to get a different look. I don't like to use a blooming gel because I want to keep kind of a little bit more separation. I don't want these to all blend together. Okay, so but you could definitely try this design and you could definitely create something a little bit different. So give it a try, see what happens. All right, at this point, now we're going to create our French. Somebody says, I can't do it. I bet you can. I bet you can if you try, because all you're doing is just kind of putting the product on and just brushing it out, brushing it out. You can definitely do that. All right, I'm going to take my brush. I'm going to clean this out. Now, I don't have any product on my wipe here. I'm just going to wipe out the extra gel polish or the extra cream clay that's in here. And then we're going to come through, and actually, I think I'm going to bring, I changed my mind here, you guys. I'm going to take just a little bit more color and bring that up into my corner up here. And just kind of blend that through because I want to make sure that I'm going to be able to actually cut in a smile line. And I say cut in, I'm not really cutting that in. I'm just going to take my brush. Again, that's nice and clean. I cleaned out all of that extra color out of there. I'm just going to use my brush, come through, wipe in my smile line. And the thing about the cream clays is that they're very rich and they're not very self-leveling at all. So they're really going to stay where you put them. So I'm just using that clean brush, cleaning up that smile line. Make sure that I get those last little edges right up top there. And I want to make sure that I'm looking straight at this. Now, you guys, from your view, it actually probably looks like it's straight. But from me looking straight on, it's a little bit lopsided. So I'm just going to come here, bring my brush, tucking that right up to the edges there. Okay, now I think that's nice and clean. At this point, I'm going to get this into the light. Now, you guys notice I haven't used my white gel yet. So we're going to get this into the light. I'm going to freeze this first layer into place for, I would say, maybe 20 seconds, up to 30 seconds or so. But I wanted to freeze that into place before I put my white gel on because I want a little bit more of definition between the white and the greens. I want to make sure that the white isn't really blending into the green so much. So that's why I just wanted to set that first layer, and then we'll add a little bit more of that white. And this is sometimes where I like to use that ombre brush. So again, if you have the ombre brush, this is a great time to use it. If you don't, you could use even a liner brush, or you could still use that oval shaped brush, whichever works for you. But I'm going to take my ombre brush. I'm going to just kind of tap into that white. I'm going to dab off just a little bit of that extra because I don't want a ton of white on here. I just want some highlights. So just kind of highlighting through there. And this I am going to kind of, do you see how I'm kind of blending that a little bit? So it's not just a quick, not just a dab. I'm actually going to kind of blend that out just a little. Okay, so again, just kind of tapping that, removing a little bit of that extra, kind of feathering that through. All right. I think I'm liking that. So it didn't add a ton of color. It just kind of highlighted it a little bit. And you guys, if you feel like you need to add a little bit more of the other colors, kind of brighten it up. If you want to add a little bit more of that bright green, you can definitely use that ombre brush and kind of feather it through there. So just a personal preference, whatever you want your design to look like. We'll get this back into the light again for another 30-second freeze. Somebody's asking, you did a 60-second. I actually just did a 30-second. So it's only in the light for 30 seconds. It's just enough to freeze my colors into place so that they don't move when I go on to my next layer. I am going to do a full cure of 60 seconds at the end. So it will cure all the way through. But make sure that you are at least curing it and kind of freezing that into place for 30 and then do your full cure at the end. Oops. So at this point, we've got our cream clays cured into place. So we've got our design on there. But I'm going to add just a little bit more of a highlight right around our smile line. So if you didn't get your smile line 100% perfect, this is how we're going to kind of touch it up or make it look perfect. And that's where our Mission Control gel paint is going to come in. Now, could you use the gold from your cream clays? Yes. So if you want to stick with that same color, but I actually really like the color. It's just a hair different from the cream clays. So this one would be just a little bit more. Let me show you both together. I feel like it's just a little bit brighter. I feel like the cream clay is just a little bit of a softer gold. For the outline, I want to do just a little bit more of a brighter gold. So that's why I'm going with the Mission Control. And you guys work with the colors that you have. Kind of experiment and see what you like to work with. See what combinations are good for you. So I'm going to take a little bit of this. And again, I've got my, I think I'm going to use my striper brush for this. So I was using my micro detailer. So now I'm going to use, this is actually a liner brush. So I'm going to use our liner brush, and this is a little bit longer than that micro detailer. Personal preference, whichever one you want to work with, whatever you're comfortable with. But for our line here, I think I like the little bit longer brush. So I'm going to take a little bit of that Mission Control gel paint, and let's come back in here. And I'm still going to use that mixing tile here. So I'm just going to kind of roll my brush through that. Let me readjust so you guys can see. You guys, and make sure if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button before we do our little design here and get all the great free education. All right, so again, just kind of pulling that paint through my brush, and then we'll pick up just a little bit. I think I need just a little bit more on there. So I'm just kind of loading up the brush, and then we'll use that amount of paint that's on there. And I'm going to come in here and I'm going to start, and I kind of angle that finger down so that I can actually see what I'm doing. But this way my brush is a little bit more kind of perpendicular to the nail. And we're just going to come through and line that smile line. take a little bit more of that gel paint right on through. And you guys notice how, let me come back so you can see. Notice how I'm using my other fingers here to balance. For me, I tend to get a little bit shaky, and you may notice that I do get a little bit shaky. But what you want to make sure that you're doing is that you're balancing. So by putting kind of some pressure with either your pinky, your ring finger, both of those fingers, your middle finger, well, it depends on how you hold your brush. But by balancing, that's going to help to keep your brush a little bit more steady so that you can get those really nice crisp lines. So let's take a little bit more of that gel color, that gel paint. I'm going to come right around that smile line. A little bit more. I'm going to start back over from the other side, coming down all the way around. And again, you guys, if you need to go through again to kind of make that line a little bit more bold or a little bit thicker, you can definitely do that. Just again, depends on what you want your design to look like. So coming through, making that line nice and crisp. And you guys, I apologize. Sometimes I have a hard time actually talking and doing detail work like this. So if I stop in the middle of a sentence, I apologize. It's just that my brain can't do two things at once apparently when I'm doing my line work. So again, just coming through, touching up that smile line, giving us a little bit more kind of detail around the edge. I think I'm going to bring that down just a little bit and just kind of crisp up that lower part of my smile line, get all the way up into my corners, making sure that my corners are even from side to side and one side isn't higher than the other. So again, just going to kind of turn that, check that. Okay, I think I'm liking that, but I do want to kind of clean this up a little bit more. So I'm going to go back to my art brush that I was using before. And I do want to make sure that this is nice and clean. So I'm just going to make sure no color in there and bring that back to kind of a point. So just kind of tapping those sides back to a point. So here I can come back through if I need to, and again, clean up that smile line just to make that nice and crisp. Clean that brush out. Same thing on that other side. Just kind of pressing that brush down, and then we'll sweep that out to the side and up the edge. All right, I think I am liking that. So I'm going to get this back into the light. And again, for maybe another 30-second freeze. Now, could you use the touch cure light? Let's see, this one right here. Yes, you could definitely use that touch cure light to freeze that into place if you prefer. We still haven't done a full cure all the way through, but we will get to that. So again, just a quick 30-second freeze. And then we've got one last fun thing to add to this design, and I might need you guys to help me decide which one I'm going to use. But I'm going to grab our Sparkle and Shine Jewel collection. And this is, you guys, again, everything that I'm using here today is Young Nails. Everything that we've got on our website is currently at least 30% off. The sale runs till 11:59 p.m. today, so make sure that you check that out. And this jewel collection is also on sale. So if you guys are loving these jewels, definitely pick one of these up. But I'm going to use, let me see, I'm going to use either this one. So we've got some beautiful green jewels here. This one. There was one other one that I was looking at. Let me see if I can't see it now. All right, well, I guess we're gonna go with one of these. Hang on one second, is that? Nope, that's red. So you guys, you can see in our jewel collection, we've got all kinds of beautiful colors, and camera does not do these justice. Let me come in really close. But these colors are very bright, very bold. They're absolutely gorgeous. And I feel like I'm still missing one, but that's okay. All right, we'll set that off to the side. So you guys, I'm going to have you guys choose. What are we going to use today? We've got 3 different options here. We've got more of that rectangular shape. Oops, let me grab those. All right, we'll just pour those out. So we've got a rectangular shape. We've got a teardrop. And we've also got a heart shape. So I need you guys to help me decide what shape do we want to use for our design today. Do we want to go with the heart, the more rectangle, or the teardrop? What do you guys think? Let me know in the chat. What do you think? Teardrop, teardrop, emerald cut, teardrop, rectangle. I'm seeing a lot of teardrops. And you guys, I'm gonna be honest with you. The teardrop was what was kind of in my mind, but I did want to show you guys the other beautiful jewels because I think they're all absolutely gorgeous and they could all be used with this design. And yes, somebody says the heart is like the I don't know how to pronounce it, but the clada ring. Yes, that was kind of one of my other thoughts in this too. So you guys, if you know Irish not history, you know what I mean, Irish lore, that heart, that emerald heart is definitely going to be great for the St. Patty's designs. But I think, well, let's take a look. So we could either do that heart. Ooh, you guys, I don't know. Maybe I'm changing my mind. I do like that heart. I think that's beautiful. But originally I was thinking of doing the teardrop either that way, or you can turn that upside down. And you guys, I'm just using my tweezers here. Sometimes I think it's a lot easier to work with tweezers when you're working with these jewels. All right. Oh, you guys, heart, teardrop, heart. What do we think? I feel like maybe the teardrop is going to fit in there better, but I also feel like I really liked that heart. Oh, you guys, I can't decide. Okay, you guys, I'm seeing a lot of hearts. I'm seeing a lot of hearts. So let's go ahead and do the heart. Now, to adhere our jewels, let me close these up. We've got a couple of options. I could either do my top coat at this point and then my jewel on top of my top coat, or I could do my top coat first, whichever you prefer. I think I tend to like doing the jewel first and then my top coat, and that way I can kind of seal around it. But again, personal preference. So I'm going to take that same tip and jewel adhesive that I was using earlier to adhere the tips, and I'm going to take, whoops, still my same spatula. I'm going to scoop out just a little bit of this, and I think maybe not quite that much. So again, just scoop out a little bit with your spatula. We're going to set that right down onto our nail. Just kind of give it a good squish down. And yep, that's the technical term, squish down. And then we can take our tweezer and grab our jewel. And we can set that right down on there. Now, I'm going to just kind of use my fingers here to kind of press that jewel down. And I really like to give it a good press down so that some of that adhesive does kind of squeeze out around the edges. I'd like to have that much product on there so that as it squeezes out, I can use the brush end of my tip or of my dual-ended brush and spatula. And this way I can use that brush to kind of come around and just kind of tuck that last little bit of the adhesive right up underneath those corners. So this way I'm not going to have any gaps underneath there for my client to maybe catch her hair on, or myself if I'm wearing these to catch my own hair on. So I do like to just kind of tuck in that adhesive just a little bit. And if I need a little bit more, I'm just going to kind of scoop that onto my tile. I can use that brush to take a little bit more of that adhesive and again just kind of tuck that up underneath there so it really does seal all the way around that edge. So if you do have a little bit that squeezes out, that's perfect. Otherwise, you can just kind of use that brush to kind of fill in around those edges. Okay, now at this point, I'm going to make sure that my gel is away from my light. I'm going to look at my nail nice and straight on, and I'm going to just make sure that everything is where it should be. Everything looks nice and straight and even. And then I'm going to go back to my touch cure light, and you could go back into the full UV LED light, and that would work just fine as well. But I'm just going to use this one to kind of freeze it into place. And when I'm doing my jewels, when I'm adhering my jewels like this, I do try to come from the sides to really make sure that that light is getting all the way around the edges and then over the top. So again, it's going to cure from all the different sides. And this is really just to set this jewel into place. We are going to do our final top coat around this. So don't worry, we didn't forget about that. But just again, maybe a 20 to 30-second freeze to really set that jewel into place so that that doesn't move when I do my top coat. Okay, now you guys, make sure if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, join our community, get all this free education. And as long as you're typing things and hitting buttons, we're going to go ahead and start our top coat chant. So if you know what the top coat chant is, start that in the chat. And I'm going to use our Ultimate Finish top coat to finish this nail. And we're just going to use this and polish up to that stone or up to that jewel, and then all the way through that free edge. Now, you're going to notice that you're not going to be able to get all the way up around those edges, up around that cuticle area with this brush. And again, that's sometimes why I do tend to like to put the top coat on before I do my jewel, but I'm going to show you a way to make it easy. So if you do put the top coat on like we are here, you can still kind of touch up around those edges. So just like we did with um, our sorry guys, same thing that we did with our colors. I'm going to take a little bit of that Ultimate Finish top coat onto the tile. And then I can grab, let me find my micro detailer again here. So that same micro detailer brush, that really tiny brush, I'm going to use that to adhere or to apply my top coat up around that cuticle area or around the rest of the base of the stone here to really make sure that I've got top coat everywhere that I want and that it is sealing all the way around the edges of the stone. So again, I don't have any issues with my client catching her hair or anything like that. So just kind of using that liner brush in any areas that you weren't able to get your top coat brush. And we're using the Ultimate Finish, and this is a great top coat to use when you are working with the jewels and things like this. This does not have a tacky surface to cleanse off. So we're going to get this into the light for full 60 seconds on that. But the Ultimate Finish does not have a tacky surface, and especially when you're working with the jewels, if you are using a top coat that has a that tacky surface, trying to cleanse around that, you tend to get your lint-free wipes kind of stuck on those jewels and things like that. So that's why I really like to use the Ultimate Finish, because it's going to be tack-free. You don't have to worry about cleansing any of that top coat off or making sure that there's no sticky spots left on there. Okay. So you guys, again, now we are in the light for the full 60-second cure. At this point, it's been in there for about 40 seconds. I'm going to take that out so you guys can see the final look on there, but do make sure that you are curing for a full 60 seconds to finish that cure. So we've got our beautiful, super easy St. Patty's Day. I almost forgot what holiday we were celebrating. Our St. Patty's Day design here. So you guys, I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure that you do hit that subscribe button so you can join our channel. Continue to get all this free education here with Young Nails, and make sure to check out our sale on the website, youngnails.com. And like I was saying before, our e-file, our portable e-file that I was using earlier, that is on an amazing bundle deal. I guess we're calling it the grab bag deal, and it comes with 4 gel polishes. It is an amazing deal on that. Everything else on the website is at least 30% off. We do have some other great deals going on for you guys. But again, hit that subscribe button, join our community, check out the website, get some awesome deals, and we will see you guys next time. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you again.